Hello, people of the internet. This is a geek gaming culture channel. And let me ask everybody something. What do you do if you go into a debate and you get your head handed to you in it? Do you decide that you're just going to say, you know what, I've been owned, I lost this debate? Or you go back to the well and you try your hand again and again and again? If you're James Stephanie Sterling, you do the latter. As is the case with the November 28th edition of the Jimquisition. Guess where they went back to? Don't even joke about easy modes in Dark Souls, because apparently we all know what James Stephanie Sterling will do the second that they actually hear the reaction that they get whenever they do so. Now, this is in response to a tweet that they put up there, and we're gonna watch the video in full. Lord help us. Now watch the entire thing so you don't have to. But we're going to jump in, or I will jump in, but I will jump in whenever I feel as though we need to really push back against whatever this person is saying. Now, keep in mind that you're not going to hear a particular take that Jim had in this video. A particular take that happened earlier this year. There might be a good reason for this, is because Jim never understood any of it. They didn't learn any lessons whatsoever. So with that having been said, let's go to the video.
Okay, for reals is this time
For
it's
reals,
filming and you should do your thumbnails.
Thumbnails, okay. That works, I think. We'll do one with a hand just as well.
Do one while you're minding giving a blowjob. Yeah, that'll be the pick.
Oh, I forgot that they do stuff like this, so let's just skip this.
Hello everyone, James Stephanie Sterling, intimidating tits, non-threatening penis.
And a relationship with YouTube that will make sure that I don't get demonetized when I say stuff like I just said.
Now this week, I have been told by many people that I should not be playing Dark Souls.
No, Jim, that's not what they said, but yeah. Pray tell to us what exactly you mean by that, because I would love to hear your explanation as to how you got to that conclusion.
Which is interesting, because I really like it. Bloodborne is my second favourite game after Silent Hill. I was on board with all that back in the OG Demon Souls days. Not that I think, bragging about one's gaming credentials is all that important. One should brag about things that took actual effort and skill to achieve.
Like maybe the Dark Souls games? The Dark Souls franchise? Elden Ring? Which you're not going to bring up those games? And what's wrong with feeling a sense of accomplishment when you beat a difficult task, huh?
Like my massive milkers.
But why?
But there are a lot of people that tie their sense of self to their skill at games, and that's why I have been fielding a lot of discourse.
No, Jim, you don't know what the meaning of discourse is. Stop pretending you know jack about it.
From people on social media about how I should get good, because people still say that unironically in the year of our Luigi 2022.
And of course, you don't know what they actually mean by that. Yeah, there might be a few people that are toxic by saying that, but the majority of them are not exactly saying that because they want you to leave the Dark Souls community. Now, they might be saying it now because of how you're going on being all entitled about it, but we'll get to that because I'm pretty sure you're going to bring up that word entitled as well.
One thing I have learned in a week of very interesting discussion that we will be talking about is that you do not joke about Dark Souls easy modes. You absolutely do not joke.
So, all those times that you've been complaining and whining about Elden Ring and the Dark Souls games not having an easy mode, those were jokes as well? Should we count them as jokes? Because you sure as heck were not joking about those, were you? Oh yeah, that's right. This time, when you got your head handed to you yet again, you decided that, oh, they're just jokes. I didn't really mean to say that Dark Souls should have an easy mode, even though I absolutely do believe in a serious tone that they should have one, and I've been clamoring for it for some time because I can't finish one of those games to save my soul. No pun intended. Is that what we're going for? Because I'm pretty sure that you going into this well so many times, it's going to have a much different effect this time. It's going to have a much different result now, is it? Oh wait, it's going to have the desired result because with your fledgling channel, which loses subscribers by the daily, you need this for the attention which I'm probably giving you because I just can't let this go, Jim. I know I'm going to give you exactly what you want, which is the attention you seek, but I do have to call this out yet again because I know that some people actually do believe you and do actually think you are correct. So we have to educate them about why you are so wrong, and we'll go to great lengths to try to prove that you are correct because educating you on this subject is a lost cause at this point.
It was a joke. It was a joke. It was a simple joke, really.
Really?
No.
Really?
About the much prophesied downfall of Twitter. But I should have learned by now that there are some things you just don't joke about. You don't joke about tragedies. You don't joke about abuse. And you sure as don't joke about difficulty modes in Dark Souls.
And like I said, all those other times were jokes as well. Jim, you know the reason why they went after you when you made that quote-unquote joke. You know the reason why. Why would they come after just you?
Perhaps the touchiest, most sensitive, least trivial subject in the entire history of human discourse.
One of these musicians suffers from diarrhea.
What the hell is that?
So yeah, billionaire fascist and insecure man-child Elon Musk has bought Twitter and run it into the ground.
Okay, yeah, what does this have to do with anything? Yeah, we know Elon Musk bought Twitter, it's become a dumpster fire, they let people back on that you don't like, that you didn't agree with, that you wanted to censor. We understand, we get it. Why does this have anything to do with Demon Souls or Dark Souls? Just skip this and let's get to the point.
At least we can have fun with it.
I said skip, damn it. Here we go.
Twitter is on the verge of collapse. Let's do it one more time, I tweeted, ready to publish the goof of the century. It would be fine if Dark Souls had an easy mode.
Yeah, because everybody will just know that you're just pulling their chain when you've not been kidding around when you said that. The first million times you've said something like this, or said that Elden Ring needed something similar. Yeah, we just knew, we should have just known that you were kidding around.
Yeah, I figured it'd be a good little gag about Twitter's end.
Ignoring the 1000th time Jim's editor has used the April O'Neil fetish in order to finish their videos, how was anybody supposed to know that joke was about Twitter's end? Please inform me, first of all. Now, second of all, you knew you were going to get heat from this because you have not been joking, as I've said a couple of times now, what the issue was. It was that you were being serious the umpteenth times you went to this well. You did it to troll, you knew the reactions you were going to get, and yet you did it anyway. What did you expect was going to happen? Given that you're the only one who started this debate, you're the only one who even thinks anything like this is feasible, outside of your rabid fan base, which is exhausting in of itself. And now here you are changing the story as to why you even went there, as to why you even decided you were going to get into this discussion. Let's face it, this wasn't a joke. You were just trying to troll people to get attention and to poke the hornet's nest yet again, expecting different results.
A callback to a decade-long gaming debate that surely everyone would take as a giggle about Twitter and not a controversial invite to be retweeted nearly 3,000 times and attract so many outraged replies that my mentions became unusable for days and was still full of bitter debate even a week later.
Only you have been serious. The past million times you've gone to this well. Jim, you do realize that people remember this stuff. You remember things that happened 8, 9, 10 years ago when you're trying to cancel somebody. And now what's happened is that you believe that people are going to forget the umpteenth times you've said all this. This was not a joke, Jim. People didn't believe it was a joke then. They don't believe it now. And you're the only one outside of your rabbit fan base that even believes it should have an easy mode. You're the only one. Everybody burned you about the Elden Ring thing. Everybody burned you when you first said this. Everybody. It wasn't just these gamer TM people which you claim exists. It was people like Rich Review Tech. It was me. It was other people who were saying, hey, you know what? They don't need an easy mode in Elden Ring or Dark Souls. Where are you getting this? And of course, you're going to not learn your lesson because yes, I have already watched this and now you have to suffer me going through this, people, because quite frankly, you had to go through what I went through when watching this for the first time. Because yes, this does get worse.
Damn. I hate gamer discourse.
No, Jim, you just hate when people call you out on your BS and they push back on you. You never expect for anybody to disagree with you, and if they dissent with you by even 1 millimeter, you go off like this. You smear and label people, you misrepresent their points or their arguments constantly, and use mental gymnastics in order to get to a point which you know has no basis in sanity or reality. You misrepresent arguments, you misrepresent just about everything, and no wonder people want you to go away. You never want to actually back up your arguments. You just chastise anyone who dares to challenge you or to disagree with you by even 1 inch.
10 years after I first said I'd be fine with Dark Souls having an easy mode, not demanding it have one, just saying if it had one it wouldn't be the end of the world, and that same tepid statement still inspires the gaming gatekeepers and worst of the Souls fandom to act like I dug up their granddads and their cadavers till they fell apart.
Now I'm sure you're going to show us a firm and valid representation of what you mean when you say stuff like that. And by the way, what the heck is a cadaver?
Like, it's amazing how even now, simply suggesting you wouldn't be offended by an easy mode will in turn completely offend the gamer's TM. Who will perceive a slight against the game on which they've hung their self-esteem, who will act as if you made demands of From Software. The pearl clutching is really quite embarrassing, especially because their upset pressure sensitivity is communicated as if I'm the snowflake.
And now you see where we're going with this. Jim is never going to understand that it's not because they are entitled or anything like that. It is because Jim has made this argument before. Jim has said this argument before. And they have been owned every single time they bring it up. For 10 years, they said, they've brought it up. They get the same result every time. But it's not because of them being so entitled or so angered and so triggered by it. It is because Jim does the same thing that they do every single time they make an argument. They go for the absolutist. They come in hostile. They come in with an axe to grind. They come in attack mode and they attack everybody preemptively. They don't come in wanting to get informed and have a debate. They want for people to validate that they are correct on every single last syllable they say. And what do they expect is going to happen? They are going to respond to you in kind, especially when you misrepresent what the argument is on the other side. And especially when you treat everything in the same box, which you have done, Jim. You have done the cardinal sin of always treating the entirety of people in the same way. Not everybody who pushed back on you is this gamer TM, and I wish to God you would stop using that phrase. What is a gamer TM? Can someone please explain to me what that means? What does that mean? What is a gamer TM? I don't understand that. Please inform me. Not everybody who pushed back on you is being hostile to you. Or maybe they are because you are being hostile to them. You come in expecting an argument. You want to win an argument. You don't want to have the debate with people. When people calmly came to you and said that it doesn't need an easy mode because part of the fun is trying to defeat its difficulty, and they knew about the difficulty going in, you came back with stuff like this, what you're saying right now. And again, you wonder why people ignore you and want you to go away.
And half of these offended status quo warriors are barely even making any sense. Funny how all these epic video games are art YouTubers also happen to be the ones who completely ignore artistic intent just to start brigading in favour of making every single gaming experience look and feel like the typical pre-regurgitated half-assed AAA garbage.
Okay, and what was wrong with that statement? What was wrong with that sentiment? What was wrong with that pushback? Besides what you're about to say, which I don't think it was. Aren't you the one that is saying that we should have more indie games and stuff like Activision Blizzard and Ubisoft and EA, well, you don't mention EA at all anymore, that it's all the same thing, we need more unique experiences? Aren't you the one that's talking about microtransactions and stuff like that? Are you the one that's bringing that stuff up all the time? And now all of a sudden someone else uses it against you in your argument, which, by the way, this argument has really no vitriol to it at all, and it's just pushing back against you, maybe a little bit hard, but they're still pushing back against you. This is the vitriolic statements you're getting, because if you consider this is, then you need to try a little bit harder than this. What was wrong with that statement? I don't get what was wrong with that. It seemed like a normal pushback statement that was just counter-arguing what you were saying. That was not offensive. I didn't see anything offensive there. What was the offensive thing that was said? What was the entitled thing that they were saying?
That was all one sentence, by the way.
So you mean like 3/4 of your videos? Then again, it might be 3/4 of my videos, but who's counting?
Nobody would tell Stanley Kubrick he should have had a narrator explain everything during 2001: A Space Odyssey to make it more accessible.
Again, I don't see a problem with this. What's the problem here? What's the vitriolic statement? Where is the entitlement being shown here? They're just pushing back on your opinion. That's it. That's all this is. You can just counter the argument with one of your own. You can have a healthy debate with this person. You just didn't want people to disagree with you. And you taking offense to this statement, Jim, is making you out to be like Jeremy Scott of CinemaSins. We all know how stupid he's become in recent years. Maybe you do need your hand held. That's what you have a problem with. That Dark Souls, Demon Souls, and Elden Ring didn't hold your hand through the entire experience. That's what you want. That's what you're talking about with an easy mode here. Somebody to hold your hand through the entire experience. Like Jeremy Scott needs his hand held every time he watches a movie. Again, what's wrong with this statement?
This f***ing laugh.
Again, I didn't say FromSoft had to do anything. But this nuance has never been understood by a single one of these people. No, it wouldn't. Go get better or go somewhere and cry about it.
And we've hit the point in time where we have to ask Jim where they are getting these comments from. Are they Twitter? Are they some backwards place on the internet? Where are they going and fishing for these comments? And furthermore, is this a response to them saying that Dark Souls should have an easy mode? Or is it in response to their continued attacks on anybody who dares to call them out on it? Again, this is the millionth time they went to this well. So do you really think that they're going to respond in kind the millionth time they go to this well, knowing how to react to anybody who dares to disagree with them? We all know the answer to this. This is attack after attack after attack. And no, while I don't agree with the way they went about framing this thing or phrasing it or how they went about to counter the attacks, and they could have been a little bit more civil about it, I don't think I can blame them, seeing as what Jim has been doing this entire time on this issue. They're the only ones that are bringing this up. Outside of their fan base, who else is bringing them up? Who else is asking for this? No one else is asking for it. Them, meaning Jim and their fan base, are the only ones that are even asking or even clamoring, even considering this a possibility. And the reason I did that little meme when they're saying that, oh, I didn't actually say that it was a requirement, was because that's not what they said the couple of times they have said this. And again, I'm not going to sit here and say that that was a professional way to go about it. No, I'm not going to say that. But I'm also not going to blame them. You can no doubt say that they are probably jaded by the amount of times they have to go and explain this to Jim. Countless times. And they still don't understand it. They don't understand that the point of a Dark Souls game is the difficulty. That's part of the experience. That's part of why they say please get better at the game. Because you'll have a much more enjoyable experience if you pay attention to those things. Pay attention to the tutorials. Pay attention to how you're supposed to do things in the game. It's not unfair difficulty. It's just challenging, punishing difficulty. It's going to make you pay for your mistakes. That has nothing to do with accessibility. But yet you try to combine the two, Jim, because that's the only way you can have any kind of credibility to this argument that you keep going to. The frustration is showing here. This is frustration because they keep trying to tell you this and you just refuse to listen. And instead of listening to them, you go and attack them because they didn't agree with you. You are so insecure. That's what this is. This is insecurity on the highest level. You just want people to tell you you're correct. And you're getting mad that people aren't telling you that people are telling you you're wrong, that you're dead wrong. And you keep going about it and you keep poking the bear, poking the hornet's nest, and they are getting tired of it. And then can you blame them when they're saying stuff like this? Can you blame them when they're telling you, hey, just go away because we're not going to listen to this anymore? Can you blame them? This is you all the time. Why do you expect different results so you keep going to this well and keep acting like this, expecting for people to just flat out agree with you because you live in your echo chamber? This is not how it works, Jim. This is just not how it works. It's simply not how it works. I mean, maybe if you came into the community with a little sense of hospitality and a little bit of respect to the genre and say, hey, I may need some help. Can you help me? Maybe they would help you a little bit more. But that's not what they're getting. That's not the attitude they're getting. So why do you expect that in return? If you're not giving it to them, why should they give it to you? Maybe this is not the product. This is the receipt.
Said someone who totally wouldn't know anything about crying.
Well, you should know since you're kind of doing it right now.
Stop being entitled, and don't claim it's under the name of accessibility when we already know Souls games are inaccessible for other reasons.
Okay, so this is actually in response to Jim's Elden Ring take, which, by the way, if you would notice, Jim has not even brought that one up yet, and I wonder why. It is because Jim knew that they got their head handed to them on that occasion. What they did was they confused accessibility with difficulty. They confused accessibility features like colorblind mode and hearing impaired mode with, oh, let's make this game easier so people who need their handheld through video games would be able to complete this. That's what Jim was trying to equate with accessibility features. Those two things are not interchangeable. You cannot do it. It is impossible to do. People who have disabilities don't necessarily want their games to be easier. They just want them to be more accessible. Accessibility does not equal difficulty. That's what people were trying to tell Jim, and yet they refused to hear it. Because Jim cannot stand being wrong. They always want to try to spin things around in order to make it seem like they were always in the right, even when they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. And that's what this whole thing was. This is what this comment was, assuming the comment exists, because again, there is no source to this quote. Now, the last time we said there was no source to the quote, somebody did tell me that the quote did exist. That was the GTA 6 thing. But they had to really go looking for that comment. They really had to go look for whatever it was. But again, I could believe that someone could say this to Jim because they remember the Elden Ring take. It goes back to this whole thing. Forget about the past 10 years that Jim is claiming. What about what happened this year? Jim, bring up the Elden Ring take. Are you scared to bring it up? Because you knew you got to hand it to you on several occasions about that one take, because you brought up things that were dead in the water by that point. You brought up things that had nothing to do with the Elden Ring take you were trying to bring up. Accessibility and difficulty and identity politics had nothing to do with each other, so why were you bringing it up then? But you're not bringing up the Elden Ring take because you know that that was the worst take you ever had. And then you just kept going worse and worse from there. But again, it gets better from here. We're not done yet. We're, 23 minutes in? We're not done yet. Trust me, this gets even worse.
Yeah, 50% of the fan base makes it inaccessible.
I just want to point out that Jim keeps saying that fan bases are effing exhausting, and they just said that 50% of the Dark Souls fan base is exhausting and makes it inaccessible. Has Jim ever looked to their fan base and seen how they behaved? Because I'm pretty sure that they get crazier and crazier by the daily. I'm pretty sure the pot is calling the kettle black here, and the kettle is biracial, so there's that.
No, it wouldn't. It would detract from the game. Why are bad opinions on this site always a package deal? Why, if someone thinks Souls should have an easy mode, it is virtually a given that there will be pronouns in bio?
Not that the person isn't correct about it detracting from the game, because that's part of the Dark Souls experience is the difficulty. I would like to say, how dare this person say it's virtually a given that they have those in their bio? It's if they have a Ukraine flag in their bio. I'm just saying.
This leads me to think, why is it always a package deal? Why do people who always complain about pronouns in bio turn out to be such little bitches?
Well, I do agree in the way that the complaints about that in the bio sections can be a little bit off-putting. I just made a joke in the previous thing about it. It stands to be that there is context that's left out here, in which when people see that kind of thing in their bio, they feel as though it's more of a virtue signal than anything. Fair or not, many times that's been what actually happens, is that they feel as though if someone puts that in their bio, that they're going to be automatically hostile if they get any kind of pushback whatsoever, or they're going to interject those kinds of things into any response to any counter argument that they receive, whether or not it warrants that to be brought up or not. If someone were to put those things into their bio and then they react civilly and are willing to have an actual adult discussion about topics that are deemed to be sensitive or polarizing, then maybe there wouldn't be that kind of prejudice being put forth. However, that is not the case a lot of the times, and unfortunately that leads to some people like that person who automatically believes that. And they also feel as though those times people will not tolerate it to the point that they will go right for the block button whenever they hear any kind of disagreement whatsoever with any kind of hot button issue, which leads to why you see those types of comments being put forth. I'm not saying it's fair, I'm not saying it's correct, but there needs to be a bit of discussion concerning how people on social media do behave on both sides of the aisle, I would say. Unfortunately, it seems to be that if you're on one side of the aisle, then and it's only the other side that's engaging in any vitriol or hostility. It seems to be it's never your side, it's always the other side is doing it. And that in turn leads to the division and the polarization that we have right now, and it doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon. Until we address this situation, it's not going anywhere.
You are an awful human being if you agree with this take. Wow. Pussy. Wow.
The village idiot routine, the one bad apple spoils a whole bunch routine. I had a feeling that Jim was going to try to go there and to use that to smear an entire fan base. Not unusual knowing Jim.
I think it's okay that some games have pay-to-win microtransactions. Fucking hell.
So does Jim think that this person is in on the joke, or is adding into the alleged joke, or is trying to get Jim for the amount of times that they keep bringing the same subjects up week after week? I'm not quite sure what Jim is laughing about here, or if it is sarcastic or something along those lines. Or does Jim think this person is actually serious about saying that kind of stuff? What's the complaint there, Jim? I don't understand what your complaint about that is. And it's not saying that that's a good statement to make. I'm saying, what's your complaint? I would say what the complaint is, but there's a couple of different things I could say about that. As where you might have a couple of different things to say about that. So which one is it? I need to know that.
That's just a selection of absurd quote tweets pulled without much searching.
Wait, Jim found all that without much searching? Is that what they actually said?
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
Obviously, I've not included the ones who resorted to transphobic attacks because they're not funny so much as wretchedly, spinelessly pathetic.
But that hasn't stopped you before, hasn't it, Jim? That should say something when you're not going to show us something you would have shown us otherwise. Because you know, outside of your rabid fan base that would never question you, some people might question whether or not you received those kinds of comments that you misconstrue, misrepresent, or completely spin in order to fulfill a narrative you want people to think. And I don't doubt there are those village idiots around. And I hate to use something that Rich at Review Tech USA used in order to describe those kinds of people, but I don't doubt they exist. However, that would go against the narrative you're trying to show us if you would actually show us what you believe are the phobic comments. You showed us the more civil comments and called them vitriolic against you. You see how much you're trying to spin this into something in which you know your fan base is never going to question you on. And they're not going to ask for the pics or the evidence to this, Jim, because you know how they react to anybody who dares to question you.
I do love the several takes that claim my tweet was evidence that I've fallen off in recent years.
Well, that's one of the many reasons why, but yeah, we'll go with that as at least one of them. The other being that you are now a sniveling hack that decides that they're going to join the very thing they hate, which is the establishment. You are now a part of the establishment, Jim. That's one of the many reasons why you've fallen off in recent years. The other being, well, takes like this and the Elden Ring take, which you have still yet to bring up, even though you know that's the freshest thing on their minds. And the clear evidence that you do not know what you are talking about, that you have become far educated beyond your intelligence.
Despite my first saying this over 10 years ago and maintaining that rather laid-back stance ever since. Funny the amount of things, just the sheer volume of things that prove I fell off or became mentally unstable around February 2021. Just things I've always done. Huh.
Oh, get off it, Jim. You know why you've quote-unquote fallen off. Come on. You're smarter than this, or at least we think you are. Don't try to play that game. We all know the real reason why you're saying that, and you know why we're saying that. Quit trying to think that we're dumb. You've used your identity as a weapon to smear and silence any form of criticism against your viewpoints at any juncture. You have used the village idiot, the one bad apple, in order to smear entire fan bases you don't like that try to call you out on anything you say. You misconstrue, misrepresent arguments. You give bad takes about games such as this one, and about Sonic Frontiers, and about the new Pokemon game. Let's not forget about that one. And about Breath of the Wild. You just can't admit that you have been mistaken at any point. And when you do have to do that, it feels like you're forcing yourself to do so because you really feel like you're still correct. Don't give us this, Jim. We all know, and you know, the reason why they're saying that. It has nothing to do with their identity either, so get off of that point too. Only your fanboys that go out and attack anybody that has any form of disagreement with you whatsoever is buying that garbage.
The less insulting and or tear-stricken replies go over the same old shit. Respect the artist's vision. Accept that not all games are made for everybody. It already has an easy mode. It's called co-op, magic, decks, or whatever else I think is for casuals.
Okay, so what's wrong with those points? Those are valid points. Respect the artist's vision is the way the game was made. Yes, this is what the artist's vision is to make the game difficult and challenging in order for somebody to want to overcome the challenges. That's the point of Dark Souls and Demon Souls. Not all games are made for everybody. Now, this is a little bit different because, again, you're construing two completely different things and making it into one argument. The idea that difficulty means accessibility. So no, you can't argue that point if you're going to construe those 2 points together. Unless you separate them, we can't have debate on that. Because you think those two things go together for some weird, odd reason. And co-op, magic, and decks, I don't know what decks are, I have no idea what they're talking about there, are for casuals, but you're saying something completely different than what your text on the screen is saying there. That the co-op is the easy mode, but yes, they're correct on that. Co-op does make things easier on that game. I have played Dark Souls. I know that co-op does make things a little bit easier if you are able to team up and to tackle a particular challenge. You're allowed to do that. Are you saying that you're antisocial as well? What is going on here? And magic / dex, does that mean dexterity? So are you saying that building up your skill set and to use different things to make the game a little bit easier on you and to use the tools that are accessible to you is something that is not making the game easier for you? Or are you just using this as a dismissal, as a gaslight here? What is that argument? What exactly is that last argument? That makes no sense. Co-op magic dexterity is not an easy mode? What is Jim expecting out of the game at this point? For the game to, again, hold your hand throughout the entire experience. Jim wants a walking simulator. That's what this is. I would hate for Jim to play games through the Nintendo era, through the NES era. You want to talk about difficulty? There's difficulty. We dealt with cheap difficulty, we dealt with challenging difficulty, we dealt with asinine control schemes in the day, and you know what? We enjoyed it because we knew we were getting entertainment at that point. And we're getting entertainment now. And either they're for casuals or it's an easy mode. Like, what in the world, Jim? What point are you trying to make with that? That is the dumbest point you've made yet. And you're about to make a dumber one. I can't believe that this is something I decided to spend time on debunking. That I'm spending an hour's worth of my time to even put this out there. And most of my day to put this out there. Because somebody's going to have to. Because I don't think anybody else wants to even touch this at this point. This is the kind of takes that you do daily, weekly. And yet you don't seem to get it. It is not about your identity. It is not about you coming out or anything of that sort. It is about takes like this that are asinine and you insert things that should not even be in this discussion. Yes, you've said this for, you claim, 10 plus years, but have you forgotten about Elden Ring, which you did just this year? And you had such asinine takes at that point too, and you continued this scheme, and now you're saying it is a freaking joke? this time around? No one biased that, Jim. That's why you got the responses you got, because everybody thought that you were being serious, because you were serious all those times before. But now you're going to say that you were just joking around about Twitter going downhill or burning in the fire, and then you're going to put this point on? So was this actually a joke you were making, Jim? Or was this something you just wanted to use in order to get attention again? And to have us waste our time with you yet another point? Someone has to do this. Someone has to debunk this, because there are people who still believe you. You still just won't get it. You still don't get it. You choose not to get it. You choose not to figure this out because you are willfully ignorant and arrogant at the same time. I don't know how you managed to pull all this off, but somehow, some way, in that body of yours, in that brain of yours, you seem to be able to do all these things all at once. And no, skills like magic or working with others or building up your skills are not casual things. And for God's sakes, learn the difference between accessibility and difficulty. They're not the same things in any sort. You still don't get that either.
Overall, my past week and change is full of very normal, very rational people who had a proportionate response to me, a person who loves the Souls games as they are.
Okay, one, you're sure crap aren't treating these like rational pushback opinions. And two, if you like the Souls games for how they are, then why are you making this video? Why the heck are you asking for easy mode? This is the Elden Ring contradiction all over again.
And simply thinks easy mode's existence would be fine by me because I wouldn't play it.
Wait, did Jim just said that they would be fine with easy mode, but they wouldn't. Jim. I wish I had the face cam on, because you should hear and see my face palming right now. Oh, good Lord, I can't believe that this person just said that. I don't know if they're saying that other people wouldn't play it, or that they wouldn't play it, or I'm misconstruing what they're saying here, but oh wow. I told you it would get worse, and it gets even worse. Keep in mind, this is becoming a 40-minute video. I don't want to spend too much time on this. Why am I giving Jim Sterling this much attention? Why am I doing this to myself? Is it because of sheer torture I want to put myself through? I mean, come on. Is this what I've become? To have to put up with this? Jim, if they put it in easy mode and you're not going to play it, then why are you asking for it? Are you saying other people wouldn't play it? Because that's not what I heard. Why are you even asking for this? Why are we here? Why did you even make that tweet in the first place? Assuming you even said that, like you said, it was 10 years ago. I would have to go searching a while in order to find the place that you might have said this. And the way you misconstrue just about everything, and you give us half-truths and leave out important pieces of context in everything you say, I highly suspect that you're not telling us everything about what you said in those videos, and that you just calmly said this without any form of hostility whatsoever.
Yes, saying that opinion makes me a bad person is very normal indeed.
Again, you're leaving out important pieces of context about why they're upset with you, Jim. It's not just the opinion they're upset with, it's the absurdity of you asking for something, and then when they're trying to tell you that it would not make the game any better, would just make it worse, you're, instead of just debating them and trying to support your claim, you're going off on the people and smearing them for disagreeing with you. Again, we are not stupid, only your rabid fan base that is too blind in order to call you out on anything at all believes that you're just spouting your opinions.
Interesting how there's a ton of people saying if Dark Souls is hard, just don't play it, and they're all failing to acknowledge that if it had an easy mode and they didn't like it, they could, just not play it.
Jim, that's not what they said. Please understand that this is the reason why people are upset with you, is that you have just misrepresented and strawmanned their arguments. They're saying why there would be no easy mode. It's because the sense of accomplishment for completing something difficult would then go away, that anybody could do it. The feeling of getting through a difficult boss or getting through a difficult portion of the game would in essence be trivial. No one would want that. That's what the Dark Souls games are. And you know what? Part of what makes the Dark Souls series so fun is actually seeing streamers have to go through it, have to count up their deaths. And they know that going in. Part of the whole thing is seeing how many times it takes for you in order to finally clear that part of the game. An essential accomplishment when you finally figure out how you get through it. That's part of the experience. It's not cheap difficulty. If it was cheap difficulty, then it would be a little bit different. We would be having a little bit of a different discussion here. But it's not cheap difficulty. It is challenging. It is punishing difficulty, but it's not cheap difficulty. If you pay attention and you develop your skills, you will do better in the game. That's why they're saying get good. It's not because they don't want you there. They might not want you there now because you're going off on them every single time you do battle with them, which you're doing now. You're going back to as well as if you were winning all this time, like Charlie Sheen or something. But they're telling you, you should pay attention to the tutorials. You should pay attention to maybe your stats or how you're using your abilities, what you need to do in order to win, and the patterns of the bosses and the traps and everything in between, and how you're supposed to get through certain things, through certain bosses, through certain portions of the game. And if you had an easy mode in which something held your hand through everything, that would not be an accomplishment. That would be a participation trophy. Hey, you tried. Hey, you participated. That is not a sense of accomplishment. That's what they're saying to you, Jim, and you still don't understand it. You don't care to hear that. Instead, you go for the lowest common denominator in this whole thing, and you pretend that is representative of the entire fan base of Dark Souls, or any other gaming community that you seem to always want to paint with the same broad brush. In essence, you don't seem to want to shut up for 5 minutes and listen to what they're saying. You're so busy wanting to prove that you are correct when it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be incorrect about something as long as you're willing to acknowledge it and willing to listen to the people who might have a different perspective and might have a better way of handling certain situations. But you don't seem to be capable of doing that. You never seem to be capable of doing that, and that's why you get these reactions. Maybe if you close your mouth and open your ears, you might not get these kinds of reactions because you might be able to hear what it is people are saying. And if you stop bowing down to your masters at people like Bloomberg, then you might get a little bit more respect. But as it seems right now, you are not willing to do that, so who's here to help you at that point?
Really though, I'm not interested in having this dumb fucking debate all over again.
Then why are you here making this video? Why did you even make that tweet? If you really did not want to have this discussion, then why did you do any of this in the first place? Why did you just not leave this alone? Seems to me like you are lying through your teeth here yet again.
I could point out how many people who cry artist vision seem to have no respect for it when a game includes an LGBTQ+ character, or media dares to have some black elves.
Okay, first, it's funny that it's The Last of Us 2 and Lord of the Rings that you cite as your examples, because by that you know you are creating straw man by citing those two as your examples when you're talking about those things. The Lord of the Rings had a very shoddy story, and we all know the other criticisms about The Last of Us 2, including the character assassination of Ellie, the killing of Joel, the way that ammo just comes right out of nowhere and is so plentiful that you will never run out of it, and the forcing of Abby as a sympathetic character when no one wanted her to be. Yeah, these are the two things you go to because you also know how the media feels about these two particular properties. And so you're going to try to defend them by doing this. Like I said, don't treat us as idiots, Jim. We know what you're doing. We can see right through you. We can see right through this whole facade you're trying to pull here. We know what you're trying to do. If you want a more in-depth story about how critique of Last of Us 2 makes sense, go look up the Never Knows Best video about this. You will be thoroughly informed about the issues that The Last of Us 2 had. Now, as for your other point here, which the point that you probably were trying to make here, is confusing artistic vision with the pandering and the corporate exploitation of these identity politics, that they can be exploited in a way that will only benefit those people who are trying to earn a quick buck or are trying to use it to get a paycheck. You can do a good thing badly, which many people were thinking was going on with The Last of Us Part 2 and with some of these other properties, that they were exploiting some of these identity politics in order to, first of all, silence any form of criticism against their product, and two, in order to gain some notoriety and gain a quick buck for those people who are on the other side that are giving these things hundreds and 90s just for the fact that they include these marginalized groups as these mascots in order to check a box, to feel like you have to include them in order to be noticed in advertising, in order to get people to come to your movie or play your game. And as the case when we saw with Billy Eichner and Bros, we've come a long way from 10 to 20 years ago, in which now it's getting diminishing returns, because just having a movie be marketed based upon, hey, this is the first homosexual rom-com, is not enough. You have to have some other form of substance there. And maybe that's a good thing, because now it's becoming more commonplace to not only see those types of things, but to have those be accepted to a point where it's not enough for somebody to just say, hey, these have marginalized people in it, or have these as the main characters, or have these as the actors or actresses. That's the only reason you should come and see this movie. And if you do not see this, then you are a homophobic or a phobic with another term, which is why your inclusion of Last of Us 2 in the Lord of the Rings thing is really suspect, because you know that that was not the actual reason why those things were not received as well as you probably think they should. Were they terrible things? Probably not. Did that mean that people had a right to hate on it just because they had these groups in it, that they had these characters in it? No, that kind of argument is only viable if the corporate establishment is trying to use that as exploitation in order to sell you a product in which they have no other way to sell you that. They have no other way to gain your interest in that particular form of media. Those kinds of characters still have to be relatable. They still have to fit into the story somewhat. It has to be somebody that somebody can relate to. And we haven't really arrived at the point that we can actually talk about it in a way that doesn't involve the fringe groups on either side. That is why we're having a huge problem in order to address this problem that didn't occur 10 to 20 years ago, when this was not as commonplace to see these marginalized groups now having a bigger spotlight in these forms of entertainment, which is very good to see. But at the same time, you see the exploitation beginning, and now you have to address that in a serious manner without trying to label people for simply bringing that up. There has to be more that somebody is doing in order for you to label somebody as that when they bring up these sort of things. I know that was a lengthy discussion, and that can be a whole nother video in of itself. If you want me to do that, let me know. However, this is getting to be a long video as it is, so I'll keep it short and sweet here. It's very telling that you use those two examples as your examples, because you know that the actual criticism of those two things had nothing to do with the identity of the characters that were presented in those two properties.
I could mention how the elitist statement of games aren't made for everyone seems to come from people who have a real problem with more folks enjoying something, but honestly, that's not the point here.
Now you're just manipulating a quote. Games aren't made for everyone. That's not what they said. They said that not every single game has to be made for everybody. That means that there can be different genres, different ratings, different difficulty levels that a lot of different people can be attracted to, because different people have different takes. I like RPGs, I like platformers, I like beat 'em ups sometimes, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I am gatekept from going into something like a Souls game, or going into something like a sports game, or something like that. I also love games that I can just pick up and put something in the background and just play something like Minecraft or Core Keeper or City Skylines or Satisfactory. You've seen me play Satisfactory a lot lately. That's because I actually am getting addicted to games like that in Core Keeper. Not every game has to be for everybody. There can be different genres. Like I said, you're claiming they made a quote that they didn't say. You're misquoting what they're saying, Jim, and you know you're doing that. You know why you're doing that. Again, quit thinking we're dumb and we didn't research this before we went and looked at your videos. That we didn't go and search where you're finding these on the bowels of Reddit and Twitter and the YouTube comments. These are not actual comments made by the majority of the communities you're smearing here. Where are you hearing that quote in conjunction with any of this?
I've gone over this shit so many times, I'm not here to have another fucking easy mode discussion. I never was looking for one. Hell, I wasn't even trying to be controversial.
But yet, here you are. You're making another video about this subject and claiming you were only joking. This is what Jeremy from CinemaSins does all the time when he's back into a corner and it's trying to explain off a dumb take he has or a dumb sin he has. Go watch some of the Birdman's videos in which they debunk some of Jeremy's takes and there's CinemaSins videos. You'll no doubt see that that's exactly what you're doing. You're trying to claim later on after you're getting owned that it was just a joke and that you're not looking for a debate, yet you're making this video. If you're making this video, you obviously are trying to look for discussion. You're trying to look for the debate. You're trying to look to pour gasoline onto an already towering inferno. And you know why, because this gets you the attention. This gets you the clicks. This gets you the flames. This gets you the notoriety because you know you get owned every single time when you bring this discussion up and you say the same things over and over again and you know you're BSing people. You know what you're doing here. You know this is going to get people riled up because it has so many times before and you keep doing it and you keep using the most incendiary language. You keep misinforming people about what exactly people are saying and what people were actually telling you, and you keep interjecting politics into these discussions where it has no point in being in there. Why bring any of this stuff about identity politics into this discussion? There was no point to put it in there. You know you have Twitter clout. You know you still have a ton of subscribers who will be rabid about your videos. So you know you're going to get the reaction. So why pretend like you were not expecting or were not seeking the reaction? We're not stupid. Why you keep treating us like this? We're not stupid. We know what it is you're doing. You're only saying it's a joke now because you're getting called out for it yet again. And you keep doubling and tripling down on this thing. You're going to die on this hill for some reason, even though we've said every single thing we could to let you know that you are full of crap when you're talking about this, yet you keep going on this. That's why I don't buy that this was just a joke.
Not this time. I've seen the Gamers TM getting mocked.
Oh god, the Gamers TM line again. As I have a feeling they're just going to say the same things that they just got done saying, and this is becoming an hour long. Skip.
Look, I don't fucking care if Dark Souls has an easy mode.
Again, if you didn't care, why are you making this? Why did you antagonize it? You knew what you...
I don't fucking care that it doesn't.
Again, if you didn't care, why are you making this? Why did you antagonize it? You knew what you were getting yourself into. Why even bring it up in a joke or otherwise? What was the point? What's the point of this video? What are you trying to say here? That you were trying to make some weird joke? That you only think it's a joke when you got caught with your hand in cookie jar again? And now you're trying to explain your way out of a corner? I mean, if you didn't care, you wouldn't be making this video.
I think it'd be fine if Dark Souls had an easy mode, because I just wouldn't fucking play it.
So I should just skip the rest of this because, quite frankly, this is something that you actually don't care about. You've been spending 10 years on something you don't care about. Fine by me. Skip all this.
If you like a lot of calm on your biscuit, join our club. If you like a lot of calm on your biscuit, join our club. If you like a lot of calm on your biscuit, join our Come together.
What the was that?
Say what you will about game difficulty.
We have to push back on this whole dumb take you have. You won't listen to any of them. And how do you characterize what they're telling you? How do you characterize the phrases they're telling you?
But a week full of angry harassment over a milquetoast take framed in a light-hearted context indicates exactly how unnecessarily toxic the entire debate is.
Hello, people of the internet. This is a geek gaming culture channel. And let me ask everybody something. What do you do if you go into a debate and you get your head handed to you in it? Do you decide that you're just going to say, you know what, I've been owned, I lost this debate? Or you go back to the well and you try your hand again and again and again? If you're James Stephanie Sterling, you do the latter. As is the case with the November 28th edition of the Jimquisition. Guess where they went back to? Don't even joke about easy modes in Dark Souls, because apparently we all know what James Stephanie Sterling will do the second that they actually hear the reaction that they get whenever they do so. Now, this is in response to a tweet that they put up there, and we're going to watch the video in full, Lord help us. Now, watch the entire thing so you don't have to. But we're going to jump in, or I will jump in, but I will jump in whenever I feel as though we need to really push back against whatever this person is saying. Now, keep in mind that you're not going to hear a particular take that Jim had in this video. A particular take that happened earlier this year. There might be a good reason for this, is because Jim never understood any of it. They didn't learn any lessons whatsoever. So with that having been said, let's go to the video.
It brings out so much spite.
This is just Jim repeating the same thing that they just got done saying. Let's skip it. Oh my god, skip this too.
Now, it's very tempting, because you see so many absurd takes over and over again. It's very tempting to get dragged back into the actual quote-unquote serious debate regarding easy modes in Souls games.
No, Jim, you brought this up. Just you. Who else is talking about this besides you? Who else is bringing it up? You brought it up. You're the one who sucked yourself into this discussion because you're the one who made the tweet out of a vacuum, out of nowhere. How many times have I said it during the course of the video? I feel like I'm repeating myself, but so are you. And if people think I'm rambling in the last videos, oh god, I can't wait to hear what the responses are going to be to this video, because good Lord.
It took a modicum of self-control to not become another one of the marks and give in to the allure of once again hiking up my skirt and wading through the swamp that is the Dark Souls easy mode debate.
No, Jim, you typed something up in a tweet as a joke, you claim, and that's what started it. And now you're trying to pretend that not only was it a joke, but that there were other people who started it. And I know what people are going to try to say, that they're talking about the responses and them responding to the responses. That doesn't count, because Jim was the one that brought it up to begin with. It's their fault this is even happening again. They're the only ones bringing it up. If they didn't want the debate, then don't bring it up at all, because they know what they're going to get. They knew this. I keep saying this over the course of the video. Like I said, I don't want to keep rambling on about this, but they keep repeating themselves. For some reason, they want to die on this hill. And they're saying that they don't want to go through the swamp that is a debate. You made the swamp. You filled the swamp. You're the one who dug the hole, found swamp water, and filled it bucket by bucket. And now you're wondering why people got upset that they have to go through the swamp yet again. And then they have to call you out, giving you the attention that you so desperately crave because your channel is failing again and again and again. And then you make this video about something you now claim that not only you made a joke about it, but now you really don't care about. Please tell me how this all makes sense, because I'm sitting here on an hour-long video, over an hour-long video, and I'm still not understanding the logic that goes through your head, Jim. I seriously cannot grasp the logic that seems to go through that gray matter you call a brain, and how somehow your loyal fan base, your stands, not only believe every single last word you say, but will go on other channels, will go to other places in order to defend you to the death, regardless of whether or not anything you say makes even a lick of sense that doesn't contradict yourself throughout the entire video. You're just as irrelevant as Keith Olbermann is, or the Young Turks are, and yet here you are, still have your loyal fan base. Actually, now it makes me wonder why I'm spending an hour with you, an entire day, editing a video about this subject again, about you again.
And what's really grim, what's really macabre, is that I know, even as I say this, the comments are filling up with debate points about easy modes in Dark Souls.
Which is your fault because you're the one who brought it up. Just you. Oh yeah, that's right. Your comment section is nearly an echo chamber. So what are you worried about here?
We can't help ourselves. You're doing it right. Just stop typing now. Just stop. Walk away. Don't let it happen again, please.
Yes, don't let it happen again to where I have to defend a viewpoint which is full of crap to begin with, and me having to get myself out of a corner yet again on a bad take that was bad to begin with. That I'm going back and forth whether or not I care about making the point or not yet. I'm making this video and I made that tweet to begin with. Please, Jim, stop thinking that we're stupid. I've said it a few times here. I'm going to say it again. We're not dumb. We know what you're doing. Stop pretending you never asked for this debate, that you asked for this argument, because you're the one who did the quote-unquote joke to begin with. And I'm sure somebody is going to try to defend you saying, oh, it was always a joke. BS. I don't believe that for a second. If this was actually a joke to begin with, then they should have said that from the very beginning instead of making us have to wait 10 years in order for us to hear that it was all a joke. I don't buy that. Neither do I buy that this was a joke now.
Or do. I mean, this channel's a dead duck. We could do with whatever little engagement we get these days.
So you do admit you are irrelevant. Okay.
But seriously.
So now Jim is being serious, or is Jim only joking again? I feel like we're no longer able to tell anymore, even when Jim actually says, oh, but seriously. So is Jim serious or only kidding? Is Jim a face or a heel? Maybe a tweener. Then again, we've seen some of Jim's wrestling footage. Let's just say you'd rather not be in a match with Jim because you might get seriously injured. All kidding aside, I'm only joking. Except I'm not. Unless I am.
I know that when I post this video, I'm going to be inundated with yet more of the same talking points over and over again.
And I feel like I'm beating myself over and over again. So I'm just going to skip the rest of this and end my torture right here. I'm also going to end the video right here because this is going to be an hour-plus long video that I spent an entire day trying to edit and record for. And yeah, I know I go on about certain things for longer than I probably should have, and I probably should condense some things. I need to get off of that whole thing where I need to cover every single base, and I feel as though if I cover every single base, then I'm more satisfied by doing that, and maybe I don't need to do that as often. I don't know where I picked that up from, and hopefully I can condense some things a little further. Maybe I can work on that. And if you can no doubt hear the sound of my voice right now, that's because I've been talking for just about the entire day, doing take after take after take. So forgive me for not having the most enthusiastic voice right now. It's not because I want to sound boring or anything like that. It's just because, ooh, my voice is right now tired and I want to rest it. Let me know what you think about this concept. Let me know what you think about, first of all, this format. Do you want to see more of it? Maybe we can do this in the future with other videos. You know that I am one for reacting to Jim Sterling stuff. Hopefully that's not the only thing I keep doing, because I do want to do other things, but this just keeps coming up. I did want to get to this one because, oh wow, this was just a horrible take and I knew no one else was going to get to it, but I know that people think that Jim is irrelevant, so I do want to do other things. I do want to discuss other things. Maybe I'll do a state of the channel coming up to talk about what I'm considering doing. Hopefully this goes over well. I don't hate Jim Sterling. I don't hate anybody like that, and please be advised to be civil. Don't attack anybody for who they are. Don't harass anybody. You guys should know that. You're smart enough to know that. I would assume my audience knows better than to do stuff like that. Hopefully if I do something like this, it's not an hour long. I'm sorry for the length of it. Till next time, this is a Geek Gaming Culture channel. That just happened.